story time. When I was in my residency, I had a particularly infuriating case. Now, at this point in my career, I was already 4 or 5 years out of school. So I had had many a frustrating case. But at this point, I had reached the absolute end of my rope. And this case was being taken in a direction that to me was entirely unethical. I was the only person who had a good understanding of the animal's medical situation. I had the most in-depth picture of what was going on with the case, and I was expected to check on this animal, to treat this animal, effectively to be in charge behind the scenes, but I was given absolutely no decision-making power because it was a high-profile case. And my God, it beat me down to the point that I didn't care about my job security. And in that moment, something changed. Something clicked in my brain. The what you're not changing, you're choosing thing kind of finally cemented for me. And I went to one of my superiors, someone that I trust, who was also involved in the case, also against his will, and told him, I'm done. That's it. I'm taking myself off of this case because I cannot stand the way that it's being handled and I won't be a part of it. And he looked at me like I had 9 heads and he laughed and he said, You can't do that. I said, I just did. What are you going to do? You are not going to force me to partake in this case. And again, at that point, like I said, I was not afraid of losing my job. Well, something beautiful happened that I got to watch in real time because this man, you could see the gears turning and he was considering, well, wait a minute, I don't like what's going on with this case either. He didn't tell me that I was going to have more autonomy in the case. I did ultimately get a little bit more decision-making power. But what he did was he turned around and he went to the boss that was making the decisions that we had a problem with and said to him, I'm no longer going to be a part of this case if we don't change the direction. He had never considered that it was an option to push back in that way and to mean it. You have to mean it. And things changed for the better in that case. That was the beginning of my understanding of the fact that I do have control over the direction of my career. Even if that means making choices that I didn't initially set out thinking I would, meaning like right now, I don't have a permanent job in a zoo and I'm not looking. Actually, I'm actively fending them off because it's not right for me right now. Will it be right for me in the future? Maybe, maybe not. But that is when I realized that there is so much power in understanding what you want and standing up for what you don't want and won't accept.